everyone, my name is Shayne. I'm a physiotherapist and clinical Pilates instructor at Trelawney. I'm also a yoga instructor, and today I wanted to share with you 3 of my favorite poses for runners. We've been focusing a lot on running this past month, and today I wanted to bring it to the mat and share with you some of my favorite poses, okay? So our first pose is downward dog, and I will demonstrate it first and then we'll chat about why it's such a great one for runners. So downward dog, our hands are about shoulder width distance apart. We walk the feet back, bring the knees up, and start to send the sit bones up towards the sky. Now we want to really lengthen the spine here, find some engagement through the core, draw the bottom ribs up and in towards the spine as we lengthen through the spine. Now with the legs, like I said, we're sending the sit bones up towards the sky, but the knees can be bent here. We start to send the heels down towards the mat, and maybe if you're able to, we start to straighten out the knees. As you straighten out the knees, again, those hamstrings, especially for us runners, start to yell a little bit. So it might feel good just to kind of bend one knee as you straighten the opposite knee and switch sides, kind of easing the body into that shape. Okay, so you can do this for about 10 breaths, just kind of alternating sides and feeling out how that settles into the hamstrings and the calf muscles, okay? Now the reason I love this pose for runners is because it does kind of open up that posterior chain of the body, our hamstrings, our gastrocnemius and soleus in the calf, in a way that kind of incorporates a little bit of upper body strength as well. Now pose number 2 is called runner's lunge, ironically enough. You're going to grab your 2 blocks, place them at the top of the mat. Now we'll step the right foot forwards first, placing the ankle right at the center of the blocks. Tuck the back toes under as you lift your back knee up, and now we're in a very deep lunge posture. If this is too much, you just drop that back knee down, and we take runner's lunge on your bottom knee. Otherwise, you lift that back knee up, squeezing the quads, so that you can stretch into your left hip flexors a little bit more. Now we take a few breaths here. We focus on lengthening through the crown of the head, and especially squeezing that left bum cheek just to start to stretch through that hip flexor on the left. Now from here, again, you can pause, or sometimes I like to teach that we flow between 2 different postures. So as you inhale here in your runner's lunge, you're going to exhale and send it back to pyramid pose. As you come into pyramid pose, we're focusing again on that hamstring, the back of the leg. We focus on a nice long spine here, which is where the blocks come into play. And we can move through those 2 postures as we breathe. So we inhale to bend into the front knee. We exhale to straighten through the leg. Inhale to come forwards, and exhale to bend. If you're doing this with the back knee down, it's the same idea. You inhale as you come forwards, exhale as you send the hips back over that back knee. Inhale to come forwards, and exhale to move back. Now again, this is a great posture because it does kind of work more into our quads, our hip flexors, psoas, rectus femoris, on our back leg, as well as a little bit into the hamstring on that front leg, especially if you're moving through that flow to pyramid pose. Now pose number 3 is pigeon pose, which is a great one for our glute muscles, our external rotators of the hip, muscles that are super active if we are running, especially if we're running on trails. So if we're doing some kind of off-roading, if we're kind of having to change directions quite a bit, our lateral hip muscles get a lot of work. So it's good to keep them nice and supple, nice and mobile, okay? So pigeon pose is sometimes a bit of a hard one. Everyone's hip anatomy is a little bit different, so pigeon looks different for everybody, but I'll teach it in a way that you can modify. So option 1, if you know for sure pigeon does not work for your front knee, you're going to take a slightly different posture on the back. This one's called thread the needle. Right ankle will cross over top of your left thigh. You're going to send your hands around the back of that left thigh, keeping your right ankle flexed as you start to draw that right knee up towards the sides. This starts to stretch into those right glute muscles and is a great alternative for people that can't necessarily weight bear through that leg. Now, if that's all right, you stay there. If not, we'll come into our traditional pigeon pose. So I like to start either in a plank or a downward dog. Start to send the right knee forwards as though you're drawing your right knee towards your right wrist crease. Now you set that shin down. We'll start with that shin on about a 45-degree angle with the ankle heading back towards that back left corner. Drop the left knee down and then start to wiggle the left knee back a bit. Now as we do so, the pelvis starts to sink down a little bit more towards the floor. If you find yourself rocking over onto that right side, you've probably gone a little too far. So you start to draw that knee back in a little bit and work on staying symmetrical through the pelvis. Now if you're lifting up through that back hip at all, just take a block and sink it underneath that sit bone so that you can start to support the pelvis and breathe into that posture. Now if that's not quite enough, what you're going to work on is bringing this front shin more towards parallel with the top edge of your mat. This is not great for everybody's knees because we tend to get a little bit of torsion through the knees, so really listen to your body and decide if that's good for you. Same principles apply here though. You can take that block, send it underneath your sit bone, and just start to work yourself a little more forwards. As we flex forwards at the hip, we put a little bit more strain into those external rotators, our piriformis muscles, our glutes. Okay, you might come down onto your elbows, your forearms, and we simply breathe here. Again, the main thing is we want to come to a place that's sustainable, so not a place where we feel like we have to grit our teeth, that we can't stay here for a while, because we want to be able to sink into the tissues and to really let the nervous system relax so that the muscles start to lose some of their high tone. I can stay here forever. One of my favorite postures. So try those three: our downward dog, our runner's lunge and pyramid flow, and pigeon pose, okay? I would recommend after a run, just as a way to kind of cool down, but by all means, if you make it a bit more of a dynamic flow in between postures, it can be a great warm-up as well. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. If not, have an awesome day and an awesome run.